love your moves, Liana. I love your moves.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm a retired dancer.
Oh, excellent. Love it. We'll have to
Hello.
explore more.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Extended Reach podcast. That is fosteRpod with a capital R, and this is your place for all foster care related conversations. Your hosts are the lovely Emily Parks and myself, who have both been working at Extended Reach for about a year and a half. Is that right?
Yes, I can't believe it's that long. Yep.
We both started on the same day, so hope one of us needs to know. Emily, why don't you tell us all a little bit about what you do here?
I will. My name's Emily Parks. I'm a licensed master social worker. I'm one of the implementation project managers here at Extended Reach. We also have Nikki Nakruto, who is our other implementation project manager. She's been on board here for quite a long time. She's quite our guru and expert in the system. So I'm learning a lot from her. I've done all kinds of social work things, Liana. I'm from Texas, so I started my career in juvenile probation and detention and residential treatment. I've done a little foster care. Moved down to Austin. I got my master's at UT, Hook 'em Horns, and done a lot of things there. I worked for the state of Texas for about 9 years, managing one of their Medicaid programs, case management for children and pregnant women, and personal care services. But this is my passion. I think we're really fortunate to work for such a great company. Adam Finstermaker and Matt Bidwell are co-founders, just great guys. They've really developed an awesome system, that we get to work with agencies and help them come on board, get rid of that paper and make their lives and all of their staff's lives a little bit easier. So I'm loving what we're doing.
Definitely, and I am too. And like I said, my name is Liana, and I actually don't have an as extensive background as you do. I'm pretty new to the entire scene. I do not have a background in foster care or social work or any of that, so this has just been a real fun journey for me in learning about just really everything about it, because I literally came in knowing nothing about it. If you are an Extended Reach customer, you can always talk to me at any time. I am the support person, so if you ever have a problem, I'm your lady that you can talk to. I also run all the updates for all of our latest features that our development team pushes out, which is a lot of features. So we're always updating, so I'm always busy with that. I'm also the mastermind behind our famous lousy postcards, okay? And if you've never seen a lousy postcard, they're exactly what they sound like. They're pretty lousy. And in fact, you have a chance to get your own special lousy postcard at TACFIS. When is that coming up, Emily?
TACFIS is going to be September 30th through October 2nd in San Antonio. We're going to be there with our booth, but I want to see this postcard that you're talking about, Liana.
All right. Well, since we are going to be in San Antonio for Texas, had to do a little bit of Texas themed on our lousy postcard. So I've never actually even been to Texas. That's a lie. I've been to Lubbock Airport, and I've been to Dallas Airport. That's about as much Texas as I've been in. So I did my best to channel my inner Southern girl, and I made this postcard. And I'm just going to give a preview of the front, because the back is very special information that you should come and get at TACFIS if you're going to be there. If not, then I'm sorry, I can't send this to you. But if you go to any other conference that we're at, which we will let you know, you will find a lousy postcard there. These are limited edition, people, so get them while they're hot.
Awesome.
So
that's right.
So here we go.
Yes.
We have our Texas boot. We've got a little lantern there and hat, hay bells, of course, typical Texas. And
all right.
Each lousy postcard, or this one in particular, uses a lot of Texas talk on it. They all mention the word lousy. That's how you know it's a lousy postcard. But these are really hot items. You'll want to score these. But not only will you want to score these, we also have candy at our booth. Typically, it depends on what we want to give you all, but it's always good stuff. And one of our other favorite items, which is not postcard related, is our shirts, okay?
Oh, I
Extended
heard we're
Reach
having
shirts.
t-shirts.
You all see that?
Right.
So we have the capital R, as I mentioned, that is in our fosteRpod title as well. Pretty clever. And if you are a social work warrior, like I'm sure most of you are, you're going to want to wear this shirt because it says so right on the back.
I love it. That is
I love
awesome.
it too. This is my favorite shirt of all time. I wear it whenever I can, honestly.
That's so
It's so comfortable.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
is there like a limited number of t-shirts, right? So if people want a t-shirt, then they need to come by our booth at the conference.
Yep.
If they
We
get their shirt.
We do have a limited number of t-shirts, you know, because t-shirts.
Okay.
Who doesn't want a free t-shirt, honestly?
Exactly. So come see us. Tell your friends to come see us. Tell your coworkers, your colleagues that aren't using Extended Reach. Tell them to come get a free t-shirt. We'd love to see you guys at the conference.
But not only that, remember to collect your lousy postcards, and we have very special messages on the back for you all, and they are actual postcards, so you can send them to your boss or your grandma or, you know, whoever really likes receiving postcards. So, all right, well, before we get started with our first guest today, since we're talking about Texas, I do have a Texas joke that I'm going to share with you all. So if you are easily offended and from Texas, then sorry. But it shouldn't be because it's about dogs and everyone loves dogs, so here we go.
All right, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Why did the cowboy get a dachshund?
Why did the cowboy get a dachshund?
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a weird animal for a cowboy to get. Liana, why did the cowboy get a dachshund?
Because they told him to get along, little doggy.
Why does everybody think that us here, we that live in Texas, are all cowboys and have horses?
Oh, I don't know.
It's
but
a misnomer. It's a misnomer. I actually used to have a horse. I'm not even a long time ago.
Right. Well, also, just a little, you know, history behind the joke is that dachshunds are those long wiener type dogs with a really hot dog type body. That's a joke. Yeah. Get along, little doggy.
I think with that, let's move into our guest for today.
All right, I'll stop. All right.
Fantastic. Welcome to our very first ever live podcast recording. We are titled fosteRpod with a little extended reach there in the middle. But thanks for Rachel Richter for joining us this morning. We're super excited to hear about all that you're doing at St. Jude's Ranch for Children, SJRC. We're going to be talking a little bit about TBRI, how they integrate that, and talk about some other things that you have going on. But it is September 25th, and everybody is raving about pumpkin spice, and I just have to know, thumbs up or thumbs down for pumpkin spice?
I will say thumbs up when it comes to baked goods. That's about it. No pumpkin spice coffee for me.
No coffee for you. Good thing you're not at my house.
You know what? I am totally on that train. You know, I was at the grocery store the other day. I'm from Colorado, so I use King Soopers, and I saw that they have pumpkin spice Twinkies, and they have pumpkin spice oatmeal, and not pumpkin spice related, but pecan pie flavored M&Ms, which I'm actually excited for that one.
Interesting, so. Yeah. To know.
It's the season.
I actually have a pumpkin spice bar right here that I was eating earlier today. So I love pumpkin spice, but I'm one of those crazy people. I love coffee. I love it all year round. And so I'm one of those crazy people on Facebook that you see that's like, yes, I'm ready for pumpkin spice right now.
PSL.
All right, so let's jump in. I know we have a lot of information that we want to hear about that we can share. So Rachel, will you just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your background, what your role at SJRC is?
Sure. So I actually went to Boston College, and like a lot of people, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And so I wound up majoring in human development, and eventually made my way back to Texas, and really just kind of landed at SJRC by chance. And I started there in 2006, and I was direct care. I was working like boots on the ground with our kids, and just kind of very quickly moved up through different positions within the organization. until I was actually the campus director at one of our locations outside of San Antonio. And then after that, I found myself in this brand new role with our child placing agency, which was brand new at the time, and it had just kind of gotten off the ground. And so I came over and took over that position as the program director here. And then just in December, I kind of got just a job title change. It's just Chief Advocacy Officer, so part of our executive team here. So my role within the agency is really just to oversee our entire child placing agency, as far as our foster homes and our adoptive homes, and I'm the licensed administrator for this program as well.
Fantastic. You have a lot of hats to wear. That's
Yes.
awesome. Yeah, fantastic.
I call that the Jill of all trades, not Jack.
Absolutely.
That's me, yes.
Well, awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about the like location, size, when SJRC was founded?
Sure. So our Texas operations were really kind of started in the mid-'80s by actually just a foster family, and they lived at what is now our Bulverde campus. And over the years, we have added more programs. We acquired a location in New Braunfels, and then eventually added the CPA back in I want to say 2013. But yeah, our Bulverde campus is just our business location as well. But that program is about 10 acres. It's a ranch, and we have right now about 38 kids. We're getting ready to expand to 45 kids there, with girls, typically middle school, high school kids, because we have a charter school on that campus that they all attend. And just more or less kind of our higher level, higher needs kids, kids that just won't do as well necessarily in a foster home at this time. And so they need a lot more structure that we can provide there. And then about 15 minutes down the road from there at our New Braunfels campus, that's where we have our emergency shelter. It started as a pregnant and parenting teen program, and then eventually we added child sex trafficking. That's our most recent program, because we found that a lot of our girls who were there pregnant or with children were there because they were trafficked. Yeah. And so it's something we were doing anyways. And then the Office of the Governor really has made a big push across the state for more programs like that. So we got in with them and have really worked very closely with them to develop that program. Our child placing agency, which is based in San Antonio, we are where we license foster and adoptive homes in the community. And so right now, I want to say more or less we have about 50 homes, 50 kids in that program. And then I want to say about 5 counties right now that we have foster homes in. So across the whole region, all of our programs, we've got right around 150 kids that we're caring for every single day.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you guys are doing great work. And yeah, I'm super excited to hear about the sex trafficking part, because that is so huge in Texas, and I'm seeing it more and more and more. Just getting the word out and letting people know that that is a huge issue.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about TBRI. This is one of my passions. I adopted my son when he was 3. He's 15 now, from foster care. Huge TBRI fan, huge trauma-informed care advocate. I want to hear what you guys are doing, why it's important to foster families. You know, what does that acronym even mean to you know, what does the acronym mean? What do you guys do with that, and why is it important?
Sure. So just to give you a little history, before we started using TBRI, we were using a different model, and kind of back in that time, you know, the models out there to use were much more punitive, consequence-based, and we just got real tired of it. And we just said, this is not working for our kids. So we just decided not to use any model for a while. We just figured nothing is better than this, right? So we just didn't have anything for about a year, and we were more or less using kind of like natural, logical consequences with our kids until we figured out what really would fit. So TBRI stands for Trust-Based Relational Interventions. And it comes straight out of Texas Christian University from their Child Development Institute. And so about 2013, they were really kind of marketing this model to child welfare agencies and really getting the word out there about it. And we got in on it pretty much in the front end. And I was one of the first people in the very first group to go through to get the training to be a TBRI educator. And it's just such a cool model. It just makes good sense for our kids because it's trauma focused. It looks at the child and says, not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. And so it really takes into consideration how their trauma, the multiple complex traumas that they've experienced, how that's affected their brain development, and now how that has affected their behaviors and their coping skills or lack thereof. And it just really brings a lot of actual science into it that you learn on the front end. And then it brings in 3 principles that they teach you throughout TBRI, which is connecting and empowering and correcting. So the main focus of TBRI is to connect with your kids and find ways to build that connection so that you build trust. And if you have trust, it disarms that fear that the child is feeling. And if they're not fearful anymore, then they're not going to necessarily act out in the ways that they did before. So it's definitely not, like an overnight fix, but it really makes sense. And when we learned about TBRI and we went to the training, it was a week-long training we went to, we were just like, oh my God, this is it. Like, duh, like, why didn't we think of this? Because some of it is just common sense. And the empowering principle really just empowers us and kids to meet their sensory needs, which a lot of our kids we know have those issues, and meet their physiological needs, just making sure they have snacks and water, because that affects behavior too. And then the third component is correcting, and that's kind of at the tail end. It's not the focus, because if you're doing the work on the front end to connect and empower your kid, you shouldn't have to correct as much. And so the correcting component really gives a lot of good tools just to have in your toolbox. I like it because it's practical and it's hands-on. It doesn't give these vague overarching ideas of how to parent. It actually gives you like straightforward instructions, like do this, use these tools. And we love it. We've had great success. We have several people on our team that are TBRI practitioners now, and it's awesome.
That's awesome. This is my first time ever hearing about TBRI, so it's really interesting. Our next question was actually about what type of training your TBRI includes, but you already kind of mentioned, it's got the connecting, the empowering, and the correcting. I don't know if you kind of wanted to touch base on that more, or if you just kind of...
Sure. I mean, we train all of our foster families in TBRI, and we just kind of give them a general overview because it's a really long training. If you want to do the whole training, I mean, it's going to take like a week. And we hit all of those principles, but then we also follow up with them in their homes on a monthly basis when we go do our face-to-face visits, because it really needs to be individualized to their child, their situation, the behaviors that they're experiencing. So we take those TBRI principles and we fit it to what they need. And then we also teach it to all of our staff on our residential campuses, and they're able to use it. And so, like I said, it's not an overnight fix, but if you're using it consistently and you're doing it the right way, it works. You're building connections and building trust. And it's hard for kids who come from hard places, who have experienced trauma, to really trust adults. And especially, kids in foster care, because the adults are typically the ones who perpetrated or abused them. And so it's really just teaching them that there are safe adults and that they can have their needs met by these safe adults. And we're just really finding ways to work with our kids. So one of the ways that we do that is we find opportunities to say yes to our kids. Started off with just bubble gum. We have bubble gum everywhere. And we told all of our staff, if a child comes up to you and appropriately asks for a piece of bubble gum, I don't care what the situation is, you say yes, because that gives that child an opportunity to use their words, be appropriate, use eye contact, and have their need met with a yes answer. Our kids hear no all the time, and we know that they need some yeses. And so that way, when we do eventually have to say no down the road, it's not a total meltdown, right? Because we've built them up with all the yeses. And so another way we do that is just snacks, having snacks available for our kids. Food is a really hard thing for some of our kids because maybe they went without for so long. And so having snacks available all the time is just, they're amazed, especially when we get new kids and they're like, oh my gosh, we have all these awesome snacks that I can just have whenever I'm hungry and I want a snack. And, we teach them, you have to ask appropriately. And but it just facilitates a positive interaction that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten. Another thing that we do with our kids is just giving choices and giving them the ability to compromise. Giving them a little bit of that power and sharing that with them just works wonders. This, coming from a situation where this child has just never had any control in their life and they've never been able to make decisions for themselves, and adults are always telling them what to do, and just being able to share a little bit of that power, it's life-changing. In the end, we're all still getting to the same end result, but if they get a little bit of say-so on how we got there, then great. So that's just some examples of how we're using TBRI with our kids.
Now, do you guys provide that training to other folks outside of your agency?
Sure, yeah, we've trained it with schools, we've trained it with kids clubs, we've trained it to volunteers. We've had other agencies reach out to us to get the training because they don't have anybody on their staff that are able to do that. And so we have people reach out to us all the time. I've taught it at Good Samaritan, lots of different places.
Okay. And if we had an agency that was watching today that wanted to learn more about that, who could they contact for more information?
They could just contact me and I'll put them in contact with our training department.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm really curious about outcomes, using this model and trying to say yes, I really like what you said, disarm fear. That's huge. Like that really impacted me. How are you seeing those outcomes? And, hopefully you're seeing it in numbers, because that's always what we want, or those evidence-based outcomes. But I'm just curious, what are you seeing outcomes related, but also just the general atmosphere by using TBRI?
Sure. So as far as numbers go, one thing I can speak to is containments. So we're required to report containments to the state every quarter. And with TBRI, for the CPA, I can speak for us that we've had 0 containments. We've reported every single quarter since we've been in existence.
That's amazing.
For our residential programs, we have a little bit harder kids there. The most containments we've ever reported in a single quarter is 4. And that's 4 on the same child, because we realize that they are not the right fit for us. They need something more than what we can provide. Right. So, a lot of agencies that work with the same kids that we work with are reporting, over 100 containments in a single quarter, and we're reporting anywhere from 0 to 4. That's amazing. And so, another kind of outcome, I guess you could say, is that we developed a youth advisory board, and that kind of came a little bit out of TBRI and some other models that we're looking at too, where it's just about sharing power, right? So we developed this youth advisory board, and it's deliberately a board because we want these kids to be able to influence our policies. We want them to be able to have a say-so when it comes to things like hiring new staff. And so the board is made up of not our best kids, it's made up of our hardest kids, to be honest, because they're the ones that know what's going on. They know all the gossip, they know, all the things. And so that youth advisory board comes together, and they, really talk through a lot of issues and come up with solutions. And they are daily influencing what's going on in the place that they live. We like to say nothing about me without me. And so they are brought into that process, and we are sharing that power with them very intentionally. So that they have, a piece of that control of their lives. And then just kind of on a more general note, I don't have like numbers to really back this up, but just being here as long as I have, I've been here 13 years. Mm-hmm. This is the place that kids consistently say is home to them. They will tell us on a regular basis, I've been in other facilities, this is the only place that I've ever considered home. TBRI really helps us to continue to make this as home-like an environment as possible. This isn't jail for kids. They aren't here because they did anything wrong. They're here because somebody else did something wrong and now cannot take care of them. Right. As a result of being in foster care, a lot of our kids have picked up some bad behaviors along the way. And so TBRI helps us to really address that. But yeah, I think it really helps us keep this as home-like an environment as possible for these kids, and not feel institutional.
Absolutely. Now, I think we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. Tell me where all you guys are located in Texas?
So we have an office in San Antonio, but it's just an office. Nobody lives here. And then we have the ranch in Bulverde, and we have another campus in New Braunfels.
In New Braunfels. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Yes. Fantastic. Well, Rachel, this has been amazing. I love hearing stories of success, and I love hearing agencies that are training, you know, other agencies and training their staff to implement these principles. I mean, it literally is life-changing. It's been life-changing for me and for my son. I swear he could be a lawyer at this point because he's so good at negotiating and advocating for himself.
Sounds like a lot of kids.
Yeah, we've turned some of those negative behaviors into positive ones. So I'm so proud of you guys and so happy for you guys, you know, that you've taken on this big step. We also wanted to let you guys know, and hopefully we'll see you next week, but Extended Reach is going to be down in San Antonio for the Texas Child Care Administrators Conference, September 30th through the 2nd. We'll have a booth set up. We're going to be giving away T-shirts, postcards, some really cool things. So hopefully we'll see you guys down there. Come by our booth and say hi. Those of you that are listening to our podcast that are going to be there, come by the booth, grab a T-shirt if you're one of the first ones there. So hurry and be one of the first ones so you can get some of our T-shirts. Liana has created the coolest postcards ever. We're going to stick that in here as well so you guys can see that. But they're fantastic. It's all things Texas and big. Bigger is better in Texas, so those can be picked up. But so we look forward to seeing everybody in San Antonio. But Rachel, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for telling us a little bit about what you guys do at SJRC. You know, we're definitely going to include links to some brochures that you sent us that have some things related to TBRI. And I'm going to put your contact information so that if anybody's interested in getting any training from you or learning about what services you guys provide, we'll make sure that we get that out to everybody. Liana, any last words from you? Any questions that you have? You know, you mentioned that this was your first time hearing about TBRI, you know, trauma-informed care. Any questions that come up for you about what Rachel's talked about today?
Well, you know, it's just been really informative. Like, I mean, TBRI just kind of sounds like an abbreviation for positive reinforcement, if I'm right. And I guess I've never, like, I definitely skew not towards TBRI side, and I should actually go that other direction. So I was looking at your you know, the handouts that you provided to us, and they're actually really informative. I do plan on like using them in the future, probably printing them out and things. I'm definitely looking into, you know, what more things I can do to be a bit more TBRI related. But one question I did have was that you mentioned you had 0 containments.
Yes.
What is a containment?
A containment is when you have to put a child in a restraint, essentially, because they're acting out in a way that's going to hurt themselves or hurt somebody else. And so we've had 0 of those for our child placing agency because we do so much work on the front end so that we don't get to that place.
Yeah, and that's
awesome.
Huge. You know, Liana, not coming from this background, that is huge. And I cannot stress how huge that is to not have any containments, restraints, things like that, you know, within the CPA and then the foster homes, because you're having, you know, kids coming directly to you maybe from their biological home where they were abused or neglected. And sometimes that's their only mode of communication is acting out and, you know, making themselves you know, hurting themselves or hurting other people. So that is just huge kudos to you guys at SJRC for all the work, because that is a lot of work on the front end of preparing your foster families for the kind of kiddos, how to respond to all those situations. So Liana, I promise, working at Extended Reach, you're going to be exposed to so many different things. You're gonna practically be an honorary social worker by the time you're.
I know. I already feel like I'm on my way.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's fantastic, you know, to kind of reshape your model of parenting or reshape your model of thinking about how you deal with kids or how you deal with coworkers and people in general. You know, a lot of these things that we talk about can be, you know, applied to just how we talk to people in general. So Rachel, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rachel.
Fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, we're going to sign off, but thanks for joining us today for fosteRpod, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks and take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.